Hey guys, welcome back to the Aaliyah Simone podcast. And really, the Aaliyah Simone live videos. As y'all know, I am reading essentially all the books of the Bible, and I hope y'all been enjoying us reading so far. And I'm gonna be real with y'all. At first, I was just gonna read just 3 chapters today, and then the last 3 chapters tomorrow of the book of Job, since you know we have been reading the book of Job, and we're pretty much wrapping it up. I felt as though I would be doing y'all a disservice if I just read the next 3 chapters today. I feel as though that the last 6 chapters we can go ahead and crush it through today, and I'm actually very excited because as y'all have been understanding in the summaries what we've been reading, we know that we're about to reach this point where God restores Job. And I honestly want to kind of go through that interaction between Job and, well, God and Job in one sitting instead of us kind of like leaving it on a cliffhanger. So, yeah, sorry y'all, it rained a lot yesterday and it feels really good right now, but I'm also just like, good lord, yeah, it rained a lot yesterday, so, or last night. Really, it was last night, so thing right here. So, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and read the last 6 chapters of Job, and I'm super excited. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and do our prayer. Lord, thank you for waking us up this morning. Thank you for allowing us to continue to read the word daily. Please allow us to read the word with clarity, understanding, and allow us to grow closer in relationship with you, Lord. Lord, please allow us to be consistent when it comes to reading continuously on, since we'll be reading all of the rest of the books of the Bible. Lord, I thank you for allowing us to have the desire to not only seek and understand a higher level of a relationship with you, Lord, but for us to continuously read the Word. Lord, please allow us to not only read the Word every day, but to read the Word with intention and uh, rebuke any sins that we have been holding on to for these past couple of Bible readings and pretty much in our entire lives. Lord, please rebuke any spirits of sin or any sin that we've been holding on to or sin that we have not proclaimed yet. Lord, I thank you for allowing us to read the word daily and continuous on forward with that. And Lord, I thank you for allowing your only son to die for our sins. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. So, y'all guys, like, making sure I hydrate since we're going to be reading 6 chapters. Let's go ahead and kind of get started because, you know, we have 6 chapters to read. And then we'll finish the book of Job today. I know we're kind of finishing it a day early, but why not? Like, why not? That way we can go ahead and start the new week off with a whole different book and we can start reading the rest of the books of the Bible. So here we go, guys. Here is the summary of Job. Job, the first of the poetical books, deals with the problem of suffering. God allows Satan to afflict Job, a prosperous and pious man, to test his faith. Job loses his children, his property, and his health. But in the end, he acknowledges God's wisdom and justice, and God restores him. I meant to put on the live here that we're starting on chapter 37, not 36. So, we'll be starting on chapter 37. And remember, this is the conversation that Elihu is kind of more so talking towards Job or to Job on like what his theory is basically on Job's affliction. So I believe we're about to wrap up Elihu's speech. So, chapter 37. At this also my heart trembles and leaps from its place. Hear attentively the thunder of his voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. He sends it forth under the whole heaven, his lightning to the ends of the earth. After it a voice roars. He thunders with his majestic voice, and he does not restrain from when his voice is heard. God thunders marvelously with his voice. He does great things which we cannot comprehend. For he says to the snow, fall on the earth, likewise to the gentle rain and the heavy rain of his strength. He seals the hand of every man, that all men may know his work. The beasts go into dens and remain in their lairs. From the chamber of the south comes the whirlwind, and cold from the scattering winds of the north. Let's wait for this plane. We'll get a little water break as well. Okay, verse 10. By the breath of God ice is given, and the broad waters are frozen. Also with moisture he saturates the thick clouds. He scatters his bright clouds, and they swirl about, being turned by his guidance, that they may do whatever he commands them on the face of the whole earth. He causes it to come, whether for correction or for his land, or for mercy. Listen to this, O Job. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. Do you know when God dispatches them and causes the light of his cloud to shine? Do you know how the clouds are balanced, those wondrous works of him who is perfect in knowledge? Why are your garments hot when he quiets the earth by the south wind? With him have you spread out the skies, strong as a cast metal mirror? Teach us what we should say to him, for we can prepare nothing because of the darkness. Should he be told that I wish to speak? If a man were to speak, surely he would be swallowed up. Even now, men cannot look at the light when it is bright in the skies, when the wind has passed and cleared them. He comes from the north as golden splendor, with God his awesome majesty. As for the Almighty, we cannot find him. He is excellent in power, in judgment and abundant justice. He does not oppress. Therefore men fear him. He shows no partiality to any who are wise of heart. Chapter 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst forth and issued from the womb, when I made the clouds its garments, and thick darkness its swaddling band, when I fixed my limit for it, and set bars and doors, when I said, this far you may come, but no farther, and here your proud waves must stop? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It takes on form like clay under a seal, and stands out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and the upraised arm is broken. Have you entered the springs of the sea, or have you walked in search of the depths? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? Tell me, if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light, and darkness where it is placed? That you may take it to its territory, that you may know the paths to its home. Do you know it because you were born then, or because the number of your days is great? Have you entered the treasury of snow, or have you seen the treasury of hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war? By what way is light diffused, or the east wind scattered over the earth? Who has divided a channel for the overflowing water, or a path for the thunderbolt to cause it to rain on a land where there is no one, a wilderness in which there is no man to satisfy the desolate waste, and cause to spring forth the growth of tender grass? Has the rain a father? Or who has begotten the drops of dew, from whose womb comes the ice, and the frost of heaven who gives it birth? The waters harden like stone, and the surface of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the cluster of the Pleiades, Pleiades, or loose the belt of Orion? Can you bring out Mazzaroth in its season, or can you guide the great bear with its cubs? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set their dominion over the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send out lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the mind? Or who has given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, or who can pour out the bottles of heaven, when the dust hardens in clumps, and the clods cling together? Can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions, when they crouch in their dens, or lurk in their lairs to lie in wait? Who provides food for the raven when its young ones cry to God, and wander about for lack of food? Chapter 39. Do you know the time when the wild mountain goats bear young, or can you mark when the deer gives birth? Can you number the months that they fulfill, or do you know the time when they bear young? They bow down, they bring forth their young, they deliver their offspring, their young ones are healthy, they grow strong with grain, they depart and do not return to them. Who set the wild donkey free? Who loosed the bonds of the onager, whose home I have made the wilderness, and the barren land his dwelling, his scorns the tumult of the city. He does not heed the shouts of the driver. He does not heed the shouts of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searches after every green thing. Will the wild ox be willing to serve you? Will he bed by your manager? Can you bind the wild ox in the furrow with ropes? Or will he plow the valleys behind you? Will you trust him because his strength is great? Or will you leave your labor to him? Will you trust him to bring home your grain and gather it to your thresholding floor? The wings of the ostrich wave proudly, but are her wings and pinions like the kindly stork's? For she leaves her eggs on the ground and warms them in the dust. She forgets that a foot may crush them, or that a wild beast may break them. She treats her young harshly as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain, without concern, because God deprived her of wisdom and did not endow her with understanding. When she lifts herself on high, she scorns the horse and its rider. Have you given the horse strength? Have you clothed his neck with thunder? Can you frighten him like a locust? His majestic snorting strikes terror. He paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. He gallops into the clash of arms. He mocks at fear and is not frightened, nor does he turn back from the sword. The quiver rattles against him, the glittering spear and javelin. He devours the distance with fierceness and rage, nor does he come to a halt because the trumpet has sounded. At the blast of the trumpet, he says, aha! He smells the battle from afar, the thunder of captains and shouting. Does the hawk fly by your wisdom and spread its wings toward the south? Does the eagle mount up at your command and make its nest on high? On the rock it dwells and resides, on the crag of the rock and the stronghold, from there it spies out the prey. Its eyes observe from afar. Its young ones suck up blood, and where the slain are, there it is. Chapter 40. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, shall the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? He who rebukes God, let him answer it. Then Job answered the Lord and said, behold, I am vile. What shall I answer you? I lay my hand over my mouth. Once I have spoken, but I will not answer. Yes, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Would you indeed annul my judgment? Would you condemn me that you may be justified? Have you an arm like God? Or can you thunder like with a voice like his? Then adorn yourself with majesty and splendor, and array yourself with glory and beauty. Disperse the rage of your wrath. Look on everyone who is proud and humble him. Look on everyone who is proud and bring him low. Tread down the wicked in their place. Hide them in the dust together. Bind their faces in hidden darkness. Then I will also confess to you that your own right hand can save you. Look now at the behemoth which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. See now, his strength is in his hips, and his power is in his stomach muscles. He moves his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are tightly knit. His bones are like beams of bronze, his ribs like bars of iron. He is the first of the ways of God. Only he who made him can bring near his sword. Surely the mountains yield food for him, and all the beasts of the field play there. He lies under the lotus trees in a covert of reeds and marsh. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows by the brook surround him. Indeed, the river may rage, yet he is not disturbed. He is confident, though the Jordan gushes into his mouth, though he takes it in his eyes, or one pierces his nose with a snare. Chapter 41. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or snare his tongue with a line which you lower? Can you put a reed through his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you? Will you take him as a servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you leash him for your maidens? Will your companions make a banquet of him? Will they apportion him among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hand on him, remember the battle, never do it again. Indeed, any hope of overcoming him is false. Shall one not be overwhelmed at the sight of him? No one is so fierce that he would dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand against me? Who has preceded me that I should pay him? Everything under heaven is mine. I will not conceal his limbs, his mighty power, or his graceful proportions. Who can remove his outer coat? Who can approach him with a double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? With his terrible teeth all around, his rows of scales are his pride. Shut up tightly as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together and cannot be parted. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the mornings. And his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lights. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke goes out of his nostrils, as from a boiling pot, and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. Verse 22. Strength dwells in his neck, and sorrow dances before him. The folds of his flesh are joined together. They are firm on him and cannot be moved. His heart is as hard as stone, even as hard as the lower milestone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. Because of his crashings, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it cannot avail. Nor does spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw, and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones become like stubble to him. Darts are regarded as straw. He laughs at the threat of javelins. His undersides are like sharp potsherds. He spreads pointed marks in the mire. He makes the deep boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him. One would think the deep had white hair. On earth there is nothing like him, which is made without fear. He beholds every high thing. He is king over all the children of pride. Chapter 42. Then Job answered. Chapter 42. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that you can do everything and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. You asked, who is this who hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Listen, please, and let me speak. You said, I will question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. My eye sees you. Therefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. And so it was, after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Now therefore take for yourselves 7 bulls and 7 rams. Go to my servant Job and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you, for I will accept him, lest I deal with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shewite, and Zophar the Naamathite went and did as the Lord commanded them, for the Lord had accepted Job. And the Lord restored Job's losses when he prayed for his friends. Indeed, the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers and all his sisters and all those who had been his acquaintances before came to him and ate food with him in his house. And they consoled him and comforted him for all the adversity that the Lord had brought upon him. Each one gave him a piece of silver and each a ring of gold. Now the Lord blessed the later days of Job more than his beginnings. For he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He called the name of the first Jemima. Let's read that again on verse 12. Now the Lord blessed the latter days of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. And he called the name of the first Jemima, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Karen Hapuch. And all the land were found no women so beautiful as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them an inheritance among their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years and saw his children and grandchildren for 4 generations. So Job died, old and full of days. Whew. Talk about a faithful servant, y'all. Talk about a faithful servant. Let's quickly read the summary and go ahead and move on for the day. Job, the first of the poetical books, deals with the problem of suffering. God allows Satan to afflict Job, a prosperous and pious man, to test his faith. Job loses his children, his property, and his health, but in the end, he acknowledges God's wisdom and justice, and God restores him. I don't know about y'all guys, but as much as Job is one of my favorite books of the Bible, it's still a very hard book to read because it's like you feel for Job. You're like, Job, oh my gosh, you're going through it. And you have all these people constantly on your case telling you on why you're going through experiences when they don't even reference God like that. As you can see, God is calling Job's friends out and his acquaintances. But you see how a story of a faithful servant, even in the midst of all this spiritual warfare, the affliction, you see how God restores him. Honestly, I wouldn't say tenfold, but you can use that reference. But it even says twice. Where was it? Twice. Not only, here's the thing. Not only was Job restored twice as much, right? He's even Job is receiving gifts, or basically God is telling Job's friends, yeah, you need to give him like the bulls. You need to give him some things you own, like 7 bulls and 7 rams. 7 bulls and 7 rams is what he's telling, what God is telling Job's friends to give Job, because Job's been a faithful servant, and the friends have not even spoken of God, of what is right, but Job was. So I don't know about y'all, but I am feeling a little better about completing the book of Job. This is not my first time reading the story of Job, the whole book of Job, and so reading it again, I've learned a little bit more about patience and faithfulness in regards of Job the servant. So thank y'all again for sticking through these Bible readings with me. I hope y'all are learning along the way, and also learning about interactions that these characters in the Bible, or these people, not even just characters, but character development, if anything, but how these people in the Bible are interacting with each other, how they interact with God, how they refer back to God, how faithful they are with God, their own specific relationships with God, and how God is taking it. I hope y'all are looking into that and seeing how you can focus on your own relationship with God, and maybe some things you need to work on. Are you speaking of God, of what is right, or are you kind of just speaking? I can say like pretty much every Christian can learn from those interactions that Job faced, and take some things that they've learned from the friends, as well as learned from Job, since it is his story. So I do hope that y'all have enjoyed the book of Job and the story of Job, as I believe that there's clearly other stories in the Bible, right? Or books in the Bible as well, but Job is just one of those stories where it's just like, you were faithful from beginning to the end, and things can still happen to you. You can still go through spiritual warfare. You can still, if anything, if I were Job, I would be like, wow, this is a lot that I'm going through, but the reason behind of what me going through is because God trusted you of being a faithful servant. So I would, in some sense, I'd be like, Well, God thinks doesn't think, He knows I'm a faithful servant, even amidst through the good times and the bad times, and even the good times again. So that's something I feel like we can all learn, especially me. I know this is part of why I'm reading all the books of the Bible, not only because I don't have my own desire to read all of the books all the way through, but to see some things that I can learn this official first time go around of reading every single book. So I hope y'all are learning the same. Either I'm learning or you probably learned something new or different from what I've learned. But that's the thing about reading the Bible is that no matter how many times you read it over and over again, you will find something new that you will learn. So yeah. Um, but yeah, since we finished the book of Job today, we'll go ahead and start the book of Ezra tomorrow since we're kind of like a day early. Um, yeah, so continue on with our live Bible readings. If you want to begin from the beginning of the book of Job, we went ahead and started on May 1st. And so from May 1st till now, since we kind of finished a little bit earlier than expected, but there's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and check those out, as well as the other books that I've already read. If you want, you can definitely check out my long form and my short form content uh, on YouTube, as well as check out all the YouTube videos about the Leah Simone podcast. If you don't already know, we will be airing season 5 starting July 11th. And I'm super excited to get some of these topics talked about, as I don't really see it a lot on some of these podcasts, either in audio form or video form. So I am super excited to talk about those topics with y'all. But I want to thank y'all again for joining me on this journey. As y'all know, we are not done yet. We are just getting started. Let's be real with you on that. We are just getting started. But yeah, tune in tomorrow so we can read the first 3 or 4 chapters of the book of Ezra. Y'all have a great rest of your day.